Or this week's Sage Advice, I'm featuring 5 things that I really wanted to cover off. Now, typically, nope, that's what I'm thinking. I'm mixing up my segments. I did, however, forget to crop this camera. You guys get to see all the magic today. This is what happens when the magic fails. There we go. Okay, I'll just leave my giant head right there. You're welcome. Does a druid's elemental wild shape limit you to the 4 listed creatures, or can you use whatever elemental type creature you want? In short, druids of the circle of the moon who get elemental wild shape are actually limited to one of the 4 elemental archetypes: fire, air, earth, or water. And the reason is those 4 elementals are actually their own type of creature, and that's what's called out in elemental wild shape. So factually, druids with elemental wild shape can only turn into either an air, fire, earth, or water elemental, not anything with the elemental type or subtype or offshoots of elemental creatures. My second piece of Sage Advice Unfurled as we go through the compendium and clarification this week is, can a Circle of the Moon druid still speak known languages when they're in elemental form? The answer shortly is yes. The reason being that elementals that are listed as the elemental type, which they can turn into, can speak. So per the rules then, per the rules around wild shape, they can speak and form any language that the druid also knows. So the rules is intended around this is that wild shape, effectively you can, as a druid, you can do anything that your wild shape allows. So it's the same thing, like same reason you wouldn't be able to pick locks as a bear. If the druid knows how to pick locks, that's fine. But a bear can't use a toolkit. You know what I mean? In the same way, dogs can't speak common. However, elementals can speak. They're capable of speech, so they can use any language that the druid knows when they shift into that elemental form. My third piece for Sage Advice Unfurled this week is, if a druid in wild shape can speak, can they also cast spells? Particularly as it results to elemental wild shape also. This one is a little bit different because it falls into that overarching rule of specific beats general. And for the fact that druids at level 18 do get an ability or feature called the Beast Spells feature, which applies to all their wild shape, they can only cast spells while in wild shape form. I don't know how I wrote this. At level 18, and because of that, they aren't able to cast spells in wild shape otherwise, because the specific rule states that they can't do that until level 18, and that's across all druids, and it does include elemental form as well. So they can only cast spells in wild shape, whether it's elemental shape or beast shape, at level 18 once they get the Beast Spells feature. My fourth item under Sage Advice Unfurled this week is also related to druids. Specifically, if a druid takes the Magic Initiate feat and chooses a ritual spell, can they cast that spell as a ritual? This is a little bit dicey, so stay with me. First of all, druids, this is not related to spells that have the ritual feature. This really relates to druids and the feature of ritual spell casting or ritual casting, which is a separate feat for druids specifically. So Magic Initiate states that the spell you gain, or the first level slot spell you gain, is a spell that's known, not necessarily prepared. So it doesn't presume that the spell is prepared. It's a totally different mechanic whereby you can cast that spell once per every long once per every long rest. The caveat there is that the spells that qualify for ritual casting by druids has to be a druid spell. So with Magic Initiate, the only way that will work is if the free spell you get, the free first level spell you get, is also a druid spell. So if you were to select something like Detect Magic, for example, which does have the ritual effect, you can cast it as a ritual, but you can't use the druid ritual casting to cast it any time you want unless it's prepared. And that is a little bit confusing. Effectively, what it comes down to is the answer is no, unless the spell that you've chosen for Magic Initiate is also a druid spell, which somewhat defeats the purpose. My fifth and final piece in Sage Advice Unfurled this week relates to fighters, specifically Action Surge. So moving into fighter, does Action Surge actually grant an additional bonus action particularly if tied to the original action. How Action Surge works is it gives you a bonus action, not necessarily an additional bonus action. So in the action economy that we talked about, we have action, bonus action, reaction, and movement, right? Bonus action and action are not intertwined. Where this typically gets confused is around bonus attack, or rather a bonus action that's tied to dual wielding. But keep in mind, when you use an action to make the attack action, then you can use your offhand attack as a bonus action. However, if you've already used your bonus action elsewhere, say to cast Healing Word or something like that, or for your second wind feature, then you no longer have access to that bonus action, and Action Surge will not give you another action, or another bonus action, rather. So how that would work in the dichotomy around dual wielding is simple. You take your attack. When you're dual wielding, you have the option to take a secondary attack or a bonus action to attack. And then if you action surge, you can only make one more attack. So it's attack, offhand attack, attack in that case. Bottom line is, when action surge is used, it gives you another action, but not another bonus action. And that's it for Sage Advice Unfurled.